digital domain and terrorism, calling for joint efforts within the BRICS framework to address these issues. In fact, Mr. Doval also had a brief interaction with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Mr. Doval and Wang Yi are set to hold a bilateral meeting today. And External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will begin his two-day visit to Switzerland's Geneva, where he will meet his counterpart. A Pakistani man who was arrested earlier this year for allegedly plotting to assassinate current and former US government officials now faces accusations of terrorism, according to an indictment filed in federal court. US inflation fell to 2.5% in August, setting the stage for the Federal Reserve to start cutting interest rates gradually at its meeting next week. Actor-comedian Veer Das cannot keep calm as he has an exciting task to take on. He is gearing up to host the 2024 International Emmys. And our big focus, Bangladesh's interim government chief, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, has said his country wants good relations with India as well as other neighboring nations, but it should be on the basis of fairness and equality. In fact, in a televised address, Mr. Yunus said after he took oath as the head of the administration, he received congratulatory calls and messages from different heads of governments who promised to enhance bilateral relations with Bangladesh. Muhammad Yunus said Bangladesh has already started high-level talks with India for bilateral cooperation on flood management. In fact, he said, I have also taken the initiative to revive SAARC to enhance regional cooperation in South Asia. Now, SAARC, as you know, comprises Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan and Sri Lanka.
আমরা ভারত এবং অন্যান্য প্রতিবেশী রাষ্ট্রসমূহের সঙ্গে সুসম্পর্ক চাই, তবে সেই সম্পর্ক হতে হবে ন্যায্যতা এবং সমতার ভিত্তিতে।
Mohammad Ghazali joins us with a quick live update at the moment. Ghazali, Mr. Yunus says he wants good ties with India, but it's on the terms, on the basis of fairness and equality.
Yeah, two reasons, Pama, why he's saying that. One, that in the next couple of months, you are going to see Mr. Yunus as well as Mr. Modi and head of other states at many global summits, and where Mr. Yunus will have to meet other leaders of the state, and that is why there is a kind of an olive branch which is being extended to other countries which were either critical of Mr. Yunus or which Mr. Yunus were critical of earlier. So India happens to be one of those countries, because even when Mr. Yunus was being harassed during the Indian support him is what his grudge is. But in the last couple of months, that has changed, and now Mr. Yunus wants to extend and improve its ties with all its neighbors, including India as well as other neighbors as well. The second is that in the last couple of months since he has taken over in the office, we have seen a lot of criticism of how there has been the treatment of minorities have been reported from Bangladesh. Despite he being in power, still things have not restored to normalcy as was being expected. There is still cases, reports which are emerging from Bangladesh where minorities in educational institutions or otherwise are still facing that kind of harassment. So perhaps to send out a message that things are improving and he is ready to mend ties with other nations who were either critical with Bangladesh or with him, that is why he has sent out this televised address.
As always, Ghazali, thank you so much for joining us with the latest update and contextualizing the entire story for us. As my colleague Mohammad Ghazali is highlighting, Mr. Yunus and Prime Minister Modi will be running into each other over global summits that have been lined up. So this is specifically crucial. With that, let's turn our attention to the other big story we're tracking. The National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has stressed the need for addressing modern security challenges, including those arising out of terrorism and digital threats emanating from information and communication technologies. He in fact called upon the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa framework, to make joint efforts to tackle these. Mr. Doval was in St. Petersburg in Russia to attend a summit of the NSAs of BRICS. The meeting is crucial. It comes ahead of a summit of leaders of BRICS countries to be held in Kazan next month. But Prime Minister Modi is among those scheduled to attend the summit. The Indian Embassy in Russia has posted on X saying the NSA spoke on modern security challenges, including issues of terrorism. In fact, on the sidelines, Mr. Doval also had a brief interaction with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi at the venue. Mr. Doval and Mr. Wang Yi are set to hold a bilateral meeting today on the sidelines of the BRICS conclave. And let's get you a quick update as far as Dr. Jaishankar's quick trip is concerned. The External Affairs Minister is now going to be in Switzerland for an official visit. He will touch down in Geneva with a larger aim to boost overall bilateral ties and also deliberate on pressing regional and global challenges. A quick update from the United States now, where inflation fell to 2.5% in August, setting the stage for the Federal Reserve to start cutting interest rates gradually at its meeting next week. The latest annual consumer price index compared with July's 2.9% pace and was marginally below the estimate of 2.6% from economists polled by Reuters. But the inflation data marks one of the last major economic releases ahead of the Fed's meeting on the 18th of September and paves the way for an expected quarter-point cut to interest rates, which are currently at a 23-year high of 5.25 to 5.5%. For further clarity, we have with us senior finance professional and business economist Sanchita Mukherjee on the broadcast. Thank you so much, as always, for making time for us. Ms. Mukherjee, does this latest report show that the US is turning the page on inflation?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. And this definitely shows that inflation, although it's not reaching the targeted 2%, however, it has come down in terms of groceries and food prices and oil prices. It has come down as a reading. So this might definitely prompt the Fed to look at a 25 bip rate cut on 17th, 18th when they meet up. However, there is another component of the inflation, which is known as the core PCE, which is essentially reflecting that the housing costs and the airline costs have increased, cost of rent, which might make the Federal Reserve reconsider going for a more aggressive cut beyond 25 bips, that is a 50 bips. That may not happen because they might look at it in a more gradual manner, given that the housing price cost and the airline costs have increased.
In fact, details in the report showed the somewhat stickier monthly inflation, which is seen as likely to make the Fed proceed cautiously.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly what I was saying. So they would be cautious. Most economists on the are of the forecast that it will be a 25 bips rate cut and not a very aggressive 50 bips rate cut because there are certain items in the consumer price index, for example, the rent, the housing cost and the airline tickets, which seem to be a little on the unexpectedly larger side. Having said that, the unemployment numbers have come down considerably from expectations, and the fact remains that the economy, whilst it's doing all right, it seems to be having a soft landing on the recession, on the recessionary fears, right? So a 25th bips point is most likely what the Federal Reserve would like to consider. A 50 bips rate cut would actually indicate that the recession is a hard landing. In fact, it would actually assume that the recession would be in larger proportions. So that might also create a bit of a negative impact on the markets.
In fact, some point out that this inflation report left markets anticipating a smaller cut, as you've also highlighted, but it disappointed some investors and triggered a temporary sell-off in stocks as well.
Not really. I think the 25 bips point cut has more or less been factored in global markets, in US markets and in Indian markets. So it's more in lines with expectation and anticipation of a 25 bips cut at this point in time. In fact, what remains to be seen is whether the 50 bips rate cut, if at all, if that happens, which is aggressive, whether it will be viewed positively by the market or negatively, because traditionally rate cuts have been viewed as positive for the equity markets, for global markets, in fact, but a 50 bips aggressive rate cut would indicate that the recessionary fears are a bit heightened. and that all is not okay. So in which case it might actually be viewed negatively by the markets.
Well, as always, Ms. Mukherjee, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV and making time for us.
Thank you.
With that, let's turn our attention to another story we're tracking. Well, the planned Saudi Arabian megacity of Neom has been plagued by worker deaths and executives' misconduct. This is what a Wall Street Journal investigation has found. Well, after 3 people died while working on the project, one executive reportedly commented, "You can't train for stupidity." Others have been investigated for corruption and embezzlement. It could pose a problem for Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who has poured hundreds of billions of dollars into this city, which is set to host the Asian Winter Games and FIFA World Cup. Now, if Neom fails, the 39-year-old de facto ruler risks squandering his country's wealth and his reputation as a reformer. This is what the Wall Street Journal has also highlighted. And Neom said it has zero tolerance for inappropriate workplace behavior in its defense. Well, news and updates continue in a moment right after this very short break. Don't go anywhere.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always bustling. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best journalism and storytelling on your smartphone or tablet. The NDTV app. News that matters to you.
While the world grapples with choked shipping routes owing to geopolitical tensions, a shorter route running along the Russian north coast and passing through the remote Arctic Circle promises a lot.
We are right now standing beside this big icebreaker ship.
Watch this NDTV special from the far west corner of Russia in the Arctic Circle to know more about the Northern Sea route and its significance pertaining to India.
New day, new show, a new experience.
Start your day with the news, not views.
Welcome back. A Pakistani man who was arrested earlier this year for allegedly plotting to assassinate current and former US government officials now faces accusations of terrorism, according to an indictment filed in federal court. Now, Asif Merchant was initially charged in July on a single count of murder for hire in a criminal complaint that alleged he flew to the US to recruit individuals to carry out his plot to assassinate US government officials. A new 2-count indictment unsealed in the US District Court for the Eastern District of New York reiterated the murder for hire count and added a charge accusing Mr. Merchant of attempting to carry out an act of terrorism. A Pakistani citizen who was arrested earlier this year for allegedly plotting to assassinate current and former US government officials, now faces accusations of terrorism as per the latest indictment filed in federal court. In other news, in an interview with my colleague Maha Siddiqui, a former US secretary has dismissed concerns over Prime Minister Modi's Russia touchdown with Mr. Putin. And from Kamala Harris to Nikki Haley, she says there has been Indian influence in the US presidential election, but Ms. Rice says the US cannot hold India to a loyalty test every 5 minutes, further saying that the Russian military equipment is also junk. A range of things that they've discussed. Listen in to the key takeaways.
In India and the US partnership, for instance, I'll cite an example. Prime Minister Modi was here for a state visit last year. He's going to be here later this month for the Quad Summit. But in between this, he's been to Russia, and then he went to Ukraine as well. Amidst this landscape, how is the balancing done?
We in the United States, I think, have to recognize that countries wish to have what I think India calls strategic autonomy. I have no problem with that. I believe that our deep interest, not just our values, which are deep, but our interest will ultimately lead to stronger partnership between India and the United States. A visit to Russia doesn't really, to my mind, change the fact that I doubt very much that ultimately India will want to be dependent on that Russian junk that they call military equipment that is failing so badly in Ukraine. I also think that Prime Minister Modi probably fully understands that the strategic relationship, the relationship without limits between Xi Jinping and Putin is a challenge to India's interest. And so I don't worry too much about the deepening of India-Russia ties. There's a history there. And this is something that I think we here in the United States can do more about. One of the reasons that India continues to have the defense relationship with Russia that it does is because we've been slow in the United States, in the Pentagon, to fully leverage the opportunity with India because we have a number of constraints still in terms of end user and so forth. And so we have work to do in the United States to make sure that India can fully leverage the defense relationship. But if I look at joint exercises going all the way back to when I was National Security Advisor in the humanitarian response to the tsunami, between India, Japan, the United States, and Australia, I think you see the possibilities there. So there's work to do on both sides. But I don't worry too much about the India-Russia relationship. And maybe we here in the United States can get a little bit away from loyalty tests every 5 minutes about who's meeting with whom.
John Chambers, on the same trend of defense, the defense minister, Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh was here in America about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And the two sides signed two important agreements, one of them being SOSA, where there can be on priority exchange of defense equipment. It's non-binding, but is this a way of weaning India away from Russia? And then how do you also see the play of technology? Because there is a lot of talk about interoperability of equipment, of military defense systems, and also technology playing a critical role in defense. Now, it's not an old world where traditional weapons were what was used.
All right, so 4 questions that I saw. In terms of the sequence, I think it's important this audience focus on the 90% issues that are driven in the relationship, which are all positive. We're going to change the world together. We're going to cure cancer together. We're going to be able to usher in an era of prosperity where the standard of living of every person in India increases faster than anywhere else in the world. And the U.S. will benefit that the standard of living of every person in America will increase dramatically faster than it would have had this relationship not taken place. Secondly, this is a time period where you disrupt. And to get sidetracked on disruptions, that will not bring our countries further apart. Prime Minister Modi, as I said, almost after he got elected, will be one of the top leaders in the world. He clearly is that now. And in that role, he has to have relationships with everyone around the world. And will there be bumps? Of course there will. But going back to the bigger issue, we can work together as a speed together if we set aggressive goals. And I want to give you a feeling for speed, and then you know where I'm going to go with this. To the audience today, we aren't moving fast enough. We've made accomplishments. This is our third meeting in 15 months since the Modi state visit. And the progress has been something, Condi, that I didn't think I would see, not just between governments, between startups and VCs. But what is different in the last 15 months? The speed.
Meanwhile, guess who is gearing up for the Emmy Awards this year? Well, Veer Das is going to be the new host, and he's going to be the first Indian to host the International Emmys 2024. He's gearing up to be in New York City on the 25th of November to host the International Emmys. Meanwhile, US rapper Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, is set to perform in China on the 15th of September, stunning Chinese citizens. In fact, tickets for Ye's listening party on the island of Hainan sold out within minutes, reflecting the rapper's enduring popularity in the country where he actually once attended school. Still, Kanye West's presence is a political gamble for Hainan, he said, with one internet commentator calling the rapper an outright misfit by China's conservative standards. Well, let's switch tracks to the United Kingdom now, where a British Indian London resident has started a public petition addressed to the Mayor of London to illuminate the arterial central part of the city ahead of Diwali in October. The request comes after the capital of the United Kingdom was lit up for Ramadan earlier in the year. Radhika Iyer met supporters of this petition in London. Here's what they told her.
A spectacle thousands reach London to watch ahead of Christmas each year. Arterial and buzzing London roads, Oxford Street and Regent Street are lit up with over 3 lakh LED lights every evening for a month in the lead up to Christmas. This is a ritual that has been going on in London since 1954. Deepika Khaitan, a resident in London of British Indian origin, has now started a petition to garner signatures and support. The title of the petition, Persuade the Mayor to Illuminate Marble Arch and Oxford Street for Diwali, a thought that was prompted upon seeing lights during Ramadan earlier this year.
I live very close to Marble Arch, and I cross it almost every day. And what I notice about Marble Arch is it brings the largest number of tourists to UK, to London of course, and I think almost every Londoner crosses it at least, if not once or twice a month more. So it is one of the most iconic landmarks of UK. And I believe the most important thing, Diwali is one of our largest festivals for not just Hindus, but for the Sikhs and the Jain community. We make up a large percentage, the second largest minority community here. So why should we not be represented in the most iconic place of London equally, so that we believe we belong? And to keep that whole fabric of London, the fact that inclusiveness that this country and the city brings to us.
The Labour's Sadiq Khan has been Mayor of London City since 2016. His most used phrase during campaigns and speeches has been "London is open." When you ride a journey on London's tubes, which form the heart of its public system, you'd be aware of how diverse, multicultural London City is. People from world over make the city what it is today, of which British Indians form a little over 8%. Thriving in businesses in London, many British Indians throw light on the economic opportunity Diwali lights in London could create.
To boost the local economy, I think it's a must that we need to dress up the streets. A lot of our clients, for example TK Maxx, they had launched Diwali cards because they understand the importance that people want to gift, people want to do some kind of, interaction with each other, which means something. Gifting is one of them. Yeah. Going to buy something new, which is a tradition of Diwali, that you buy something new, utensil, and going physically there and kind of, being part of that crowd feels something else. Yeah. We all come from that tradition.
It's just not merely a festival of lights. There's a lot of history. There is a lot of culture, a lot of attires, wares, textiles, and food, of course. So I remember in my first workplace when I was a branch manager, we started celebrating Diwali by giving all the walk-in people, the British people, laddus and samosas, and they loved it. They loved that concept that we started celebrations in that way.
The Mayor's office has been supporting Diwali events on the iconic Trafalgar Square for nearly 25 years now, an initiative led by British Indians. The last Diwali on Trafalgar Square saw a footfall of nearly 50,000 people with a huge celebration of Indian art forms, food, weaves and cultural history. Radhika Iyer in London, NDTV.
Thank you for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest updates for you. Do stay tuned.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Well, American pop star Taylor Swift arrives at the MTV Video Music Awards in great gusto as usual.
Landslide devastation in Kerala's Wayanad. Join NDTV's initiative. Donate for Kerala.
Some people say the metaverse will only be virtual. One day this lecture hall will be made of code, and driverless cars would be trapped in intersections. But even in this maze of the future, you can't wish away health. It's time to become more resilient. "10 years of Banega Swasth India, we have grown and achieved so many milestones. And now I have a plan to beat the urgency, to stop breathing with difficulty, to relieve getting choked with inactivity. Energize our government, our environment, our society, and ourselves. Everyone, everywhere, every day. Banega Swasth India. One world hygiene.
Hi, I'm Shreya Saran. Kerala's Wayanad area is hit by devastating landslides, resulting in loss of lives and livelihood. Kerala needs your help right now. Let's join NDTV initiative. Come, donate. Let's rebuild Wayanad.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always bustling. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking